imaginer que cette musique qui
It is hard to imagine that this music, so delightful to our ears, can be a major source of stress, the origin of undesirable and permanent muscular tensions even, for the musicians producing it. Many musicians, professional or in training, suffer in silence. In medical jargon, musicians are compared to athletes. Both suffer from the overused muscle syndrome. The symptoms suggest dysfunctions of the neuromusculoskeletal system. As professionals, musicians continually meet high standards that are inherent in the very concept of performance.
Quand la recherche incessante de virtuosité instrumentale devient synonyme de dépassement de ses limites corporelles, il en coûte trop.
When the unending search for instrumental virtuosity means exceeding one's bodily limits, the price to pay is too often various physiological troubles. Musicians are not always in control of all the risk factors, such as long practice hours over short periods of time, executing dry musical scores, carrying out repetitive movements, holding a heavy instrument, and, for some instrumentalists, remaining in one position that demands a certain asymmetry of the limbs.
Il s'agit de rester disponible mentalement.
It is necessary to keep mentally alert, to be physically alert, in order to be fully aware of the musical experience and the performance. Too often, musicians forget their bodies are truly their first instruments of expression, the first tools to be tuned before playing.
Weiß mit dem Locken umzugehen und mich aus Pfeifen zu verstehen.
La posture, le maintien d'une position de travail et l'attitude générale de l'interprète.
The performer's posture, working position, and general attitude play a dominant role. They influence physical ease during the performance, as well as the quality of sound produced. For example, the shades of sound, the precision, and the play of agogic and dynamic nuances. Examining one's postural attitudes and becoming aware of one's habits of undesirable movements that result in increased fatigue and muscular tensions provides solid means of overcoming these difficulties and better adapting to varied and demanding working conditions. The corporal and physiological troubles experienced by musicians are more common than we might imagine. Let's listen to what the musicians themselves have to say. When I play for a long time, my back hurts under the right shoulder blade. That's what mostly bothers me. And sometimes I feel my shoulders bunch up. I have to think about it. I lower them and continue playing, but they just bunch up again. I notice it eventually. After several hours of practicing, my back hurts here. Between the shoulder blades? Yes. Once I had a tense spot here for 2 weeks. After several double octaves, my forearms get tired. It happens all the time.
Fatigue dans l'avant-bras. Oui, ça arrive souvent, ça.
Ok, ben c'est des maux de dos.
My back hurts. Here.
Après ça,
where? Here?
There, yes.
Là. Oui. Quand je chante longtemps, souvent je suis fatiguée des genoux parce que je suis.
When I sing for a long time, My knees often feel tired because I'm bent too far back. I used to sing a lot from here, not low enough. So there's a little bit of air. It's clenched. My jaw is too. Where do you hurt? Do you feel any pain anywhere?
I used to have tendinitis in my left hand.
I'm especially tense in my shoulders and also in my back, between my shoulder blades, and that can spread down my arms to my fingers. If they're too tight, it can cause problems with accuracy and especially dexterity.
Alors Stéphane, toi, quels sont les...
So Stéphane, what problems do you have?
Problems. All I have is problems.
Nothing but problems?
No, my back hurts often. I had the beginning of bursitis in my left shoulder, and I had to quit playing for 2 months. Still hurts sometimes, but not as bad. Actually, when I started Cégep, I was extremely tense. The tension is gradually going away, but I still have a lot.
Puis ça tombe tranquillement, mais j'en ai encore beaucoup.
Quelles sont les sources du problème?
Where do the problems come from? Quite often, the performer's posture, how he holds his body, his overall attitude are to blame. Backaches with localized muscular fatigue are often related to a working posture that is too slumped and that does not involve the skeletal structure enough, as well as to excessive muscular force that instrumentalists are forced to expend in order to carry out their movements. Don't think about raising your arms. Simply touch the piano. Let's go.
On y va?
En station debout, on observe souvent quand le musicien se maintient trop sur une jambe.
In the standing position, musicians often support themselves on one leg. This unbalance is transmitted to the vertebral column, the chest, and even to the shoulders. When that happens, the leg joints, the ankle, the knee, the hip, tend to stiffen up.
Ein Netz für Mädchen möchte ich fing sie dutzendweis für mich.
Chez le chanteur, c'est l'axe antéro-postérieur du corps qui est principalement affecté.
Singers are mainly affected in the anterior-posterior axis of the body. They often display a poor distribution of body weight between the balls of their feet and their heels. This inadequate distribution of their weight results in a marked increase in the lumbar curve, lordosis, and causes the sternum to advance too far forward. To compensate, the head is pulled back and the cervical vertebra become crushed. She has a tendency, like everyone else, to let it advance forward a little bit. The pelvis is in front of the center of balance. Too much pressure is exerted on several segments of the vertebral column, which is out of its natural alignment. The diaphragm then loses its center of balance and advances forward, outside the axis. Consequently, the optimal and natural function of breathing and of the vocal space are disturbed. When you think it's enough, go ahead.
Two young fellas were talking about their girls, girls, girls. Sweethearts they'd left behind, sweethearts for whom they pine.
Chez le violoniste, c'est plutôt l'axe latéral du corps qui est touché. Le sujet a tendance à mal répartir le poids de son corps sur
Violinists are affected in the lateral axis of the body. They have a tendency to distribute their body weight poorly between their 2 feet and thus fail to preserve the balance between their left and their right. The consequences of this unbalance may be noticed in the vertebral column, where there is an asymmetry resembling scoliosis, an asymmetry that is also transmitted to the shoulders. Functional movement of the arms, hands, and fingers then becomes hindered. For both singers and violinists, it is essential to adopt a functional working posture with the aid of the stretch reflex. This reflex is stimulated from the soles of the feet, which are in contact with the ground. Working with an uncommon object will stimulate the postural reflex. Musicians trying to keep their balance on the log are more aware of the active role of the soles of their feet in contact with the ground. New internal sensations, called proprioceptive sensations, make them aware of the proper distribution of their body weight. These sensations also make them aware of the functional interlocking of the different joints in the legs, which are brought into alignment for the stretch reflex.
Réflexe de redressement ou force antigravité.
The stretch reflex, or anti-gravity force, is stimulated by the contact of the feet with the ground and spreads throughout the body's bone structure towards the vertebral column and the head. This natural posture allows for freedom of movement and action in the arms and hands. Gerda Alexander, the creator of Eutony, calls this conscious function of postural reflex transport. It is an innate reflex that allows us to defy the laws of gravity. The skeletal bones and the deep-lying muscles surrounding the skeletal axis are made to take on the body's weight and maintain posture. This musculature is mainly composed of tonic muscle fibers that resist fatigue. It is important to learn to entrust one's posture to the skeleton and deep-lying muscles. Notice how she uses her sit bones, not just forward and back, that's what we've seen so far, but from side to side. Watch for that. If you could see her from the back, and watch her shoulders as well, from left to right.
À propos des habitudes posturales en situation assise,
postural habits are noticeable in the sitting position through a poor distribution of body weight in the pelvic area, an unbalance that is transmitted to the vertebral column and the upper parts of the body. Pianists frequently slump their pelvis backward on their sit bones, creating a slumping of the overall posture, an exaggerated curving of the vertebral column, and a tendency for the body's weight to slide back from its center of balance. Again, as with singers, the nape of the neck is compressed and shortened. This posture leads to added tensions in the shoulders, on the insides of the arms, and in the hands. It is not uncommon either to see a slumping of the body's weight to one side of the pelvis in pianists that play extremely high or extremely low on the keyboard. The body's weight, resting on only one sit bone, then has to be supported by the shoulder on the opposite side of the body. This uncomfortable situation causes an increase in fatigue and untimely muscular tensions, hinders freedom of playing, and risks muffling the sound.
Le pianiste gagne à adopter une posture qui favorise la mise en œuvre du réflexe.
Pianists can only gain by adopting a posture that makes use of the stretch reflex.
Le réflexe de redressement s'organise à partir du bassin, les os des ischions, dans leur relation avec la résistance.
In the sitting position, the stretch reflex is stimulated from the pelvis or the sit bones, which are in contact with the chair. And if this balance is achieved, the posture, the vertebral column, and the thorax are also balanced. When that happens, there is a better expression of the arms and hands, which become free to play or hold an instrument.
Dans cette posture fonctionnelle, la musculature dite tonique, conçue plus
In this functional posture, the so-called tonic musculature, which is specifically made to maintain the body's posture, comes into play and, with the pelvic bones, takes on the body's weight. Pianists may also use uncommon objects to stimulate the stretch reflex. Through contact with the object, the position of the sit bones, as well as the dominant role they play in posture, are emphasized.
Est-ce que vous êtes prêt à continuer?
Ready to continue? Lower your body, keeping your back straight. In the field of teaching movement, Eutony, offered to musicians at Laval University in Quebec City, includes various subjects, such as touching, posture, and contact with the public. The aspect involving the restoring of a natural and functional posture invites the students to examine their habits of posture and movement which hinder their freedom of gestural and musical expression. What are your habits of movement? Move the way you usually do. How are you when you're waiting or when you're just standing? Try to feel how the soles of your feet make contact with the ground. The soles of your feet are very important. Ask yourself, too, if your knees are locked or if they're slightly flexed. Start playing a little with your knees.
Ou s'ils sont légèrement flexibles. Vous pouvez commencer à jouer légèrement avec vos genoux.
The students work and develop their ability to feel from their inner reality. It is important for musicians to integrate their presence and the activity of the stretch reflex.
Le toniste propose des pistes de travail.
The eutonist proposes different ways of working, different ways of exploring movement, and the students discover, always according to their own morphology, the optimal and most comfortable movement. Once again, just push. Don't do anything else. Don't move your pelvis. Just push and relax.
Alors on va voir comment le transport passe.
Now we're going to take a look at how transport is transmitted, or the stretch reflex. As I pull lightly on her heels, watch the extent to which the reaction is visible in the head. There. There, you see. It's a very light movement. I'm not pulling very hard. I don't need a lot of force, and the movement is immediately seen in the head. Each reaction is perceptible.
Chaque réaction est perceptible. Et imaginez maintenant que Marie-Claude...
Now imagine that Marie-Claude is standing up, and I'm the floor.
Voyez, maintenant je pousse et vous voyez cette réaction à travers le squelette.
Now see, when I push, you can see the reaction throughout the skeleton, even in the head. In fact, this bone structure is what supports us. When we're conscious of that, the body no longer needs excessive localized muscular tensions, and they go away.
Le travail au sol et l'utilisation
Working on the ground and using the log makes stimulation of the postural reflex easier. Musicians are gradually being led to explore and try out new postural habits when playing their instruments. Now watch how she breathes in this area. What's happening? She talked about her shoulders. Is there anything she's doing too much with her breathing? Try to see. Stop. One more time.
Le travail de l'eutoniste consiste
The eutonist's work consists of providing performers with sensible and precise information on all the freedom of action and relaxation that is possible.
par le biais du travail en eutonie.
Through working in eutonie, musicians are led to develop greater awareness of their corporal reality. Let your fingers find the keys. Your fingers are looking, not your arms. Yes, you're experiencing the tactile sense. Now you're ready to play.
Apprendre à sentir depuis sa
To learn to feel their postural reflex working, or the stretch reflex, from their own structure.
intégrer et ressentir le transport.
To integrate and feel transport or anti-gravity force transmitted through their body's bone structure.
Apprendre à confier le poids du corps à la résistance.
To learn to entrust their body's weight to the resistance from the ground or the chair, to allow the whole upper body to remain free.
L'approche de Gerda Alexander a comme objectif
The objective of Gerda Alexander's approach is to put the body in motion in all its psychosomatic unity,
musculaire,
to develop flexibility of muscular tonus, mobility of joints, search for an organic posture, to improve their motor coordination,
à doser sa dépense d'énergie.
to learn how much energy to expend depending on the movement to be carried out.
La pratique de l'eutonie ne peut résoudre
Practicing eutonie cannot resolve all musicians' dysfunction problems. However, through its educational aims, it offers new options, options still not fully explored in the fields of learning and musical performance.
La pédagogie de l'eutonie ouvre la
Eutonie
voie
teaching opens the way to dialogue with one's body, which is the first instrument of expression.
On va chercher à habiter davantage ce corps.
We're going to try to live better in our bodies in order to feel them to a greater extent and cease doing anything too mechanically.